there is no such thing as a French culture. I'm like, really? Have you looked at the Louvre? Have you looked at Notre Dame? Have you looked at, French culture of 2,000 years, or whether it's Italian, or whether it's German, English, Spanish, you name it, right?
For listeners who really don't know about your work and what you do, how would you describe how you came to becoming a masculinity coach, getting into the politics, culture, and especially the metaphysics?
Right.
That's really
fun. Well, first of all, I've worked a lot with women. In the 80s and 90s, did a lot of sexual therapy with them. Unlicensed, but it was legit, completely legit. And I learned so much about working with hundreds of women that eventually guys came up to me and said, hey, you do all that stuff. You're sort of like the doctor. Teach me. I don't work with guys that way. I'm sorry. I love you, brother, but not that way. And they said, no, what you learn with women. I mean, what can we learn? You know this stuff. And I'm like, I don't know that stuff, but okay, what's your question? And so that's how it started. If I look at, I'm trying to write a book, and I was like, one of the things in the foreword would be, if I see guys give up or give away their power, making an ass out of themselves, making a fool of themselves, being kind of cringeworthy, weak. And I said, look, every time I see a guy just being a wuss bag with women and just kind of totally like, oh, anything you want, honey. I'm like, I go, it's like, I go cringe. And that cringe is so, I feel I'm so ashamed for you to do that. That reflects on all men. And then women might think that I'm like that. So, I mean, it's not really rational what I'm saying here, but it's kind of how it feels. And I'm like,
where you're coming
from. Any brother I can spare that kind of humiliation, and by extension more men, that's a good thing. So I'm looking at it and it's like, I just can't watch these people do this. I mean, somebody please stop them, kill them, anything. You just wake the F up, please, and snap out of your trance. So, I mean, it's like, I see them in the pussy, and you're in the pussy trance. Well, I may be pussy whipped, but at least I have a pussy to be whipped by. And I'm, you're really an embarrassing to manhood, to mankind, and let me help you out with that. Because I used to actually do some of that too. Not as bad as you, but bad enough to not want to do it. And so that's where this came from. I call this PCM, politics, culture, metaphysics. Politics is downstream from culture, and metaphysics to me involves, yes, religion and such, but it also goes into metaphysics such as magic or hermeticism, or the more esoteric aspects, I guess, of that. And I'm looking at, there is a connection between the three. And they all inform each other, they all kind of like spill over into each other. You really can't look at politics as an isolated phenomenon if you don't look also at the culture. And I mean, I hate Nazis, but I'm a grammar Nazi. I love the English language, and I love it to be spoken properly, eruditely, eloquently. So when it's somebody kind of like, yeah, where you at? I'm like, okay. I'm really like, punctuation, grammar, these things. And it's, why do you care? I said, I care about it because it's the glue that binds together. Let's see, self-identify as an American with an M. We still share a common language, and who gave you the right to butcher that beautiful English language?
That's right. I agree.
And it's spoken. It's by far the most spoken language on earth. If you treat your language, from your diction, your pronunciation, to everything, the choice of your words, colloquialisms. I hate that kind of text speak.
Yeah, the text.
Or girls do this all the time. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, can't you speak proper English? Then they say, oh, I can't. AI does wonders. So what you just told me is you know how to use ChatGPT, but I digress. The point is, its language is, I mean, if you look at good poetry, good literature, good art, anything of value, with an intrinsic value that actually shines. That's not just, Jackson Pollock throwing paint against the canvas or whatever. Nothing against Jackson Pollock, but you need to take back the culture. We need to take back our language and treat it with a certain amount of respect. You're actually not supposed to take the flag, kind of wrap your bathing suit out of it. Or,
exactly.
When the flag touches the ground, it's desecrated,
That's right.
And so if you do the same thing to your language, it's a beautiful language. Whether it's an English accent or Irish brogue or a Scottish accent or New Zealand or any of that stuff. American is what we speak, but American. So that's culture. Own your culture. And like you have someone like, what's his name? Macron.
You saw that, right?
Yeah, it didn't really happen. It was just playful. No, he got beaten. The biggest gym chain in France now uses it. Did you get beat by your wife? You might want to join a gym. So if he says, there is no such thing as a French culture, I'm like, really? Have you looked at the Louvre? Have you looked at Notre Dame? Have you looked at, French culture of 2,000 years, or whether it's Italian, or whether it's German, English, Spanish, you name it, right?
Of course, yeah. European culture is
European culture. And I mean, okay, America, we don't have that much culture because we're only 250 years old, but actually it goes back much farther. But the thing is, this is all the glue that keeps everything together. If you treat it with disrespect, you're really disrespecting yourself. You're disrespecting the flag. You're disrespecting the country, the culture we live in. And so politics is kind of like a result of that. Of course you get woke culture if there's cultural Marxists about. Of course. If everybody says, well, religion is BS and whatever, and atheism, all that kind of stuff, you're treating 2,000 years of, where do you think all that culture comes from? Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, where do you think that comes from? These are artists that really learned the craft and that culture. Or look at, whether it's Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or Dostoevsky, these are all great, okay, that's a writer, but it's all really accomplished work of culture, of art, of literature, of deep thinking, of philosophy, of religion, whatever it is. It all is connected. If you take these things apart and you replace it with cultural Marxism, or if you ever look at London, the Shard and all these almost diabolical looking buildings, I'm like, whatever happened to that? London used to be my favorite city in Europe. And now it's like, you can't even see St. Paul's Cathedral because it's dwarfed by 5 times taller buildings. You need to own your culture. And you need to really respect what your forebears, your forefathers have built. Or look at the 3%. When the British, 1776, 381, when they came, there was only 3% that actually picked up arms and actually fought. Mm-hmm. And the rest just didn't care or emigrated to Canada, which is probably why Canada is so liberal. The loyalists went there. So the point is you're losing all that stuff that makes us great, that the glue that holds everything together, that what we're swimming in. Like a fish swims in water. Like if you could tell a fish, hey, you're wet. And the fish, what are you talking about? There's nothing else. You're swimming in that medium. We're all swimming in this culture. We're swimming in politics and we're swimming in metaphysics. Everything we do is either religiously inspired or some such thing. Treat it with respect. And that gives you power. If you take responsibility for your culture, any kind of responsibility is basically a form of taking your power back.